So good afternoon, Westbury, and good afternoon, Newcastle. It can't be a greater pleasure than for me to have the chance to be here with each of you today to fight for something that is simply right. It's what is right. And we want to join today with our great governor, Andrew Cuomo, in his fight for a $15 minimum wage. Now, before we get started, let me take a moment just to give a welcome to some of my colleagues in government. So, from the New York State Assembly, we have, and please hold your applause until the end, unless I mention my own name, in which case you can applaud all you want. So, from the New York State Assembly, we have my colleagues Mikhail Solage, Todd Kaminsky, Kimberly Jean-Pierre, Phil Ramos. We have the great supervisor of the town of North Hempstead, Judy Bosworth, and the entire North Hempstead Town Council. From the Nassau County Legislature, my friend Kavan Abrahams, who does a great job, and his fellow legislators who do a great job fighting for each of us and for what's right. And let me introduce Laura Curran, Carrier Solage, Ellen Birnbaum, Sheila Bino, and from the great village of Rockville Center, a really good guy, Mayor Francis Murray. Thanks for being with us. We have Anissa Moore from the Long Beach City Council. Welcome, and welcome to the City Council. Good work. Now, we've also got PEF President Wayne Spence. Wayne, where are you? Ellen Redmond from the international representative of IBEW. Greg Floyd, president of Teamsters Local 237. Bruce Both, president of UFCW Local 1500. And Jill Ferrillo, executive director of NISNA. Now, also joining us is a fighter for social justice, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for many years, our great town of Hempstead Council representative, Dorothy Dot Gooseby. And of course, we welcome our governor, Governor Andrew Cuomo. It is great to be with you today. Each and every day in towns and villages throughout Nassau County and Suffolk County, New York City, and throughout the entire state of New York, hardworking parents struggle. They struggle to make sure they can feed their children. They struggle to make sure they can have adequate health care, or any health care, sad to say, for their children, even while they work multiple jobs. What has happened to us? What has happened to us as a nation that the words working poor are now accepted? This is a phrase out of the age of Dickens. We will end this, thanks to Governor Andrew Cuomo. No matter what they do, no matter what these hard-working folks do, the minimum wage keeps them trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty. And as more and more people fall into that vicious cycle of poverty, it's not just them and it's not just their families that suffer. It is our entire community, our entire New York and our entire American community. So I'm talking about what happens when this occurs. The government has to help subsidize these people to keep them alive. Public assistance grows. This leads to higher taxes. This leads to less reinvestment in local businesses, and the cycle keeps going and going. A $15 minimum wage will give these families and their communities and our communities the stability and the foundations they need and we need to keep their heads and our heads above water and actually lead a decent life. And a life that we as Americans and especially as New Yorkers believe each of us is entitled to. That's a life with dignity. Think about that. A decent life, a life with dignity. That's something each of us deserves. And thankfully for us, I don't think there's anyone more committed to ensuring that each of us has that fair shot at dignity and has that fair shot at a decent life than our great Governor, Andrew Cuomo. But first, let me welcome to the stage somebody who knows about hard work and someone who has never wavered, never for a moment hesitated in his support for the working men and the working women of New York State. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 1199 SEIU President George Gresham.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. We are here today for a very important reason. It is, I'm honored to be here. On the way here, I called my wife, Sandy, and told her that I was on my way to Westbury because a couple of years ago, she attended school in Westbury. And she was then known as Sandy Beckford, in case there's any classmates that know her. Oh, yes. So it is such an honor to be here on this historic occasion to talk about working people, to have a governor, to be a chair, for me to be a chair of a Mario Cuomo economic justice campaign is so important. This is an historic moment where we are once again standing up for working people, that we are once again bringing dignity to work. It is one thing to be able and willing to work hard to take care of your family, but it is very painful when in order to do that, you must work at least 2 jobs. That means the time that you could be spending with your family, you have to spend at your second job, and too often that means rather than being raised by their parents, these kids are being raised by the streets. And the time I am both the son of a home care worker, but of Southern migrants who in the late 50s came to New York because New York was a place where if you were willing to work hard, you could take care of your family. And now in New York, because of the economy, you can still find a job that works hard, but maybe not be able to take care of your family. And so we have a governor that is courageous and saying that it's not just enough to be willing to work hard. That job has to come with dignity. That job has to come with a living wage. And that is why we are here. And I just want to let you know that New York, again, is leading the way. Let the history books reflect that there was a moment when the governor of New York decided that time has come for working people once again to have the respect and pride that they deserve when trying to take care of their family. That no longer are we going to tolerate the fact that the rich keep getting richer and working people keep getting poorer, working hard and getting nowhere. That's not the American dream, and that certainly isn't the New York dream. And so we are here with our governor to talk to all of our legislators. I ask you, when you leave here today, don't keep this a secret. Call your legislators, go to your parishes, go to your church, go to your community boards, and ask them to call their legislators. This is not rocket science. This is common decency and fairness. And we can do this, sisters and brothers. I don't want to be too long because I'm not the leader of the program here, but I can. They're going to be hooking me in a minute. But, but I, but, but I can talk about this all day because this is that important. This is the moment. Sisters and brothers, when we pass this, not if, but when we pass this, 3 million people in New York State will get a raise, dignity, and respect to take care of their families. You know, Dr. King said to 1199, 6 weeks before he was assassinated, in a speech he gave to us, he said, "There is no such thing as menial labor, that all work should have pride and dignity. The only thing that can make work, no matter what it is, menial, is the wages you don't get for doing the work. That is the only thing that can make it." And so we have a governor that has decided there will be no menial work in the state of New York. That's where y'all applaud. That's right. Sometimes I can't keep up with myself either when I get on these issues. It is that important. But you're not here just to hear my voice, and you're certainly not here just to hear us talk, but for us to do action. So I'm honored to be a part of this. I'm honored to see workers in the state of New York have the ability to take care of our families. That's the American dream. That's the aspiration of living in New York. And we have the right governor at the right time to make sure this happens. So now, help me welcome another comrade in this fight for working people, to make sure that his voice is added to the many voices standing up for working people, and that is the Suffolk County Executive, Steve Ballone.
Thank you very much, George. Great job. Let's give him a great round of applause for his work in fighting for all of us. Assemblyman Levine and all of my colleagues here, thank you for your leadership. It's great to be here in Westbury, in the town of North Hempstead. And I want to welcome once again our great governor to Long Island. Thank him for joining us and fighting for us here on Long Island and all across New York State. You know, it is so inspiring to look out on this crowd and see so many people from all different walks of life come together to support a proposal that not only seeks to achieve economic fairness, but to grow the economy as well. That is an incredible balance. And the simple fact of the matter is that we all know and understand is that you cannot support yourself, let alone a family, on the current minimum wage. As George said, and Assemblyman Levine alluded to, as more families are forced to endure this struggle, the ripple effects in our economy affect every one of us in this society. And at a time when we're doing all we can to try to strengthen our local economies, we need to make sure that citizens can actually participate in them. And that is exactly what Governor Cuomo's proposal does. Earlier this month, the Department of Labor came out with statistics about what this would mean here on Long Island, the $15 minimum wage. It would lead to a reinvestment in Long Island of $2.5 billion. That is extraordinary. And we know that with an increased income that people can spend in their communities. And what does that mean? It increases revenue for small businesses. And what does that mean? They get to hire more people. That means it is a win, win, win for everyone, for all New Yorkers. Now we know, without a doubt, that Governor Cuomo has been an amazing champion for the $15 minimum wage. But we know that he can't win the fight alone. And we know we're not going to let him fight this alone. Is that right? We are going to stand with Governor Cuomo. We are going to fight with Governor Cuomo to make sure we get a $15 minimum wage in the state of New York. And it gives me great pride. And let's give a big welcome to someone who can speak firsthand what it means, what the $15 minimum wage means to her and to working people all across this state. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Shirley Newsom.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Shirley Newsom, and I am a home care worker, and I make the minimum wage. People like me, we work very, very hard every single day. Some days we work long hours, we take up overtime. We do everything that we can in order to provide for our families. I just want to briefly talk to you today about my job. I love what I'm doing. This is what I feel good about doing. I'm helping people. I'm taking good care of people. I'm doing things that they need to have done every single day. While at times it can no doubt be difficulty. It can be demanding, and also it provides me with pleasure just knowing that I am helping someone that cannot help themselves. It's very fulfillment. And then at the end of the day, I feel that I've done a great job and I've helped someone that cannot help themselves. When I first started this job, I realized it didn't pay a lot, but I said to myself, I need to do a job that is going to be meaningful, helping someone. I had no imagination that this job would be so fulfilling. Even though it doesn't pay the amount of money that I need to do what I need to do, pay my bills. I just cannot make ends meet. But at the same time, I still show up every day doing a very hard job, something that a lot of people probably wouldn't even think about doing. But it's an honest living. I'm making a living. I'm doing what I have to do in order to stay. Here's what's happening. I get to spend my days helping those who cannot help themselves any longer and ensure that they also maintain some sort of dignity in their lives. Because after all, we all are going to get old. And they need dignity as well as us. They feel good living in their homes. And I appreciate the fact that they even have me there. Thank you so much. Speaking of dignity, that's why I'm here. I'm here asking today for that same thing, dignity. I spend my days working to ensure that same thing. We are not asking for a handout. What most Americans are asking for is just a little bit more. We don't want charity. We want to work for a living. That's the American way, is to work. No matter what you're doing, you got to do everything you can to make it a good job, excellent, because there is no menial job, like George said. Every job is important, and taking care of someone that cannot take care of themselves is just as important, as long as you're making a decent and honest day's work. But here's the problem. We're just not getting enough money for doing that. And so, thankfully, Governor Cuomo is not just on our side. He is fighting every single day for people just like me and you. He is fighting for that $15 banner, and he's running with it. He understands the struggle that our families are going through. days and nights that we cannot be there with them. I think it is very clear that he will not stop until a $15 minimum wage is the law of New York. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce a true champion for workers in New York. Thank you. Let me represent Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Shirley Newsom, let's give her a big round of applause. Thank you for what you do, Shirley. Assemblyman Charles Levine, thank you very much for hosting us today. Let's have a big round of applause for Assemblyman Levine. We have George Gresham in 1199 in the House, a true advocate for social justice, Steve Ballone, our great talented county executive from Suffolk. Pleasure to be with you. My colleagues from the Assembly and the Senate, let's give them a round of applause. Wayne Spence from PEF, pleasure to be with you. Judy Bosworth, thank you. All right, have a seat, please. It is our pleasure to be here. I am so excited. This is our third stop today. We are going to go all throughout the state and organize people and hopefully mobilize people to make their voice heard. When you speak up, the political process listens. When you speak, the political process listens. They teach you in school that politicians lead. Sometimes they lead. My experience is they follow, and they follow the people. You make your voice heard, we're going to win this. This is what it's all about. So it's our third stop today. We have a big recreational vehicle. It's out front if you want to see it. Like a big living room on wheels. Oh, yeah. I'm excited about it. Just got in it today. A lot of words all over. They tell me it's blue and red. I think it's actually blue and pink, but I don't want to say anything to them and upset them. Blue and pink is nice, too. Blue and red would have been better, but can't be picky. And we're going to go all throughout the state and explaining this to people, and I am convinced when people understand what we are talking about, they're going to support it. Because, you know, sometimes the issues are very complicated, and it's about the details, and sometimes you need to know a lot of facts. But sometimes it's very simple, and you can make the decision more here than here. This is about fundamental fairness. That's what this is about. Being fair to people, being decent to people, understanding that we are all one community and that we are connected to each other. And as goes one, goes all. That's what this is about, fairness. Fairness. Something happened in this country. Something happened with the economy. It changed on us. It changed about 30 years ago, and it's been getting worse. The economy's running. We've worked very hard to create jobs. I'm very proud to be able to say we've created more jobs in the state of New York than have ever existed in the history of the state of New York, and that's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing, but those jobs are different than the economy used to be. If you have the right skill set or the right access and you get one of the jobs up at the top end of the spectrum, boy, millionaires, billionaires were making more than ever before. The top earners are making more money at a faster rate. But that's a very small slice of the jobs. And the middle class and the working family jobs, the pay is actually going down. And the respect and the dignity that goes with those jobs is being devalued by this country in this economy. And that is wrong. And it's not last year, and it's not New York. It's been going on. There was almost a one-to-one connection between productivity and pay for the worker. What this nation said is, as the economy grows, becomes more productive, we'll give the workers more money. Why? Because that's fair. Up until about 1973, past 25 years, productivity had gone up 90%. And you know what? Pay went up 90%. From 1973 to now, productivity went up 75%. Pay went up 9%. The concept of work is being disrespected. You hear the word from Shirley, the word from George, dignity. The concept was there is a dignity in work. And that's what we ask everyone who comes to join the family of New York. We open our arms, we invite everybody in, and we say we'll make one family, a family with people from different races and different cultures and different religions, and we'll all come together. And we'll work together. And you do what you can, and we respect you to do what you can, and you will have the dignity and the respect of work. So when you go home, you will feel good about who you are, and you'll feel good about yourself. We've been taking that from people. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, great New York governor, great president of the United States, passed the minimum wage law. And you know what the minimum wage law was? Minimum wage law was FDR preserving the respect and dignity of work. He said it should not just be a wage that sustains you. It should be a wage that provides a decent living. A decent living. Federal minimum wage is $7. We raised the minimum wage in the state of New York to $9. But you know what? At $9, the numbers don't work. $9 is about $18,000 a year. You cannot support a family in the state of New York on $18,000 a year. You cannot do it. You certainly can't do it and have any decent lifestyle. You can't do it and pay rent and pay food and pay for clothes. It just doesn't work. The numbers don't add up. So what do? Two specifics that can actually bring a change. Bring us to the place of respect and dignity and the place of aspiration. George was speaking about this morning. Not only is it the respect and the dignity of work, it's what made America, America. It's what made New York, New York. You can come here and you can be anything you want to be. And your children can be anything they want to be. Because that's the dream of New York and America. Only in America, right? Only in America. How many generations came here? Only in America. And they all ask the same thing. Let me work. Let me work. Let me go to a school. Let me get an education. Let my child go to school and get an education. Let me work. And I can rise above. I couldn't do that in my old country, but I can do it here. And that's why I'm here. That sense of aspiration, that sense of hope, that sense of mobility, that's what it was all about. My grandparents came here, poor from Italy. No rich people came here. The poor people came here. If you were rich in your old country, you stayed there. So we had the poor people come. Southern Italians, who were basically agricultural, they were poor people. But they were dying to come to America. They couldn't speak the language. They didn't know what they were going to do. My grandfather was a ditch digger, just a laborer. Wound up, opened a little delicatessen in South Jamaica, and he had a son named Mario. And he couldn't speak the language, but Mario went to public school. And Mario studied, and he made sure Mario studied, had to work in the store, but also had to study. And his son goes from the back of a grocery store in South Jamaica to governor of the state of New York. What a beautiful What a beautiful place, America. What a beautiful place, New York. And the dream was anyone's son can do that. Anyone's son, anyone's daughter can do that. People don't have that same hope anymore. People don't believe that anymore. They're worried about their own retirement. They're worried about their children. They're worried about their children's education. You take that aspiration away from people, then America's not America, and New York isn't New York. We do two things. One, we restore the dignity, the pride, and the aspiration. And we pay people a decent wage to provide a decent lifestyle, and that is $15 an hour. Now, when they say to you, this is what they're going to say, because this is going to be a fight, my friends, and that's why we're here. And the opposition is already lining up. The opposition is big business, big corporations. They have big resources and big machines, and I can hear those machines turning. And they're saying, well, $15, that's too much. It's too high. Just look at the number, 15. Sounds high, doesn't it? Yeah, sounds high when they're paying someone else that. When they're paying themselves, it doesn't sound so high. Where did you get $15? This is where we got $15. If you take the minimum wage in 1970 and just increase it by inflation, which is fair, right? Inflation as an accelerator is fair. You take the 1970s minimum wage, increase it by inflation, you come to our proposal for $15. That's where we got $15, and that's fair. They'll then say, oh, this is government meddling in the private marketplace, and government shouldn't interfere with the private marketplace. Oh, really? You want to hear interference? I'll tell you interference. We just finished working with the fast food workers and giving a raise to the fast food workers, and we studied the fast food worker industry. If a company pays a worker the minimum wage in New York, $18,000, they are still below the poverty line, which means they still qualify for benefits from the government. They qualify for food stamps, qualify for welfare, et cetera. So a McDonald's employee, McDonald's pays them $18,000. You pay them through government benefits an additional $7,000 per year. So the worker winds up making $25,000. New York State taxpayers pay $7,000. McDonald's pays $18,000. We're subsidizing the McDonald's employees. We're subsidizing private sector employees across the board. You want to talk about government in the marketplace? I want to get out of the marketplace. I want to get out of the hamburger business today. I don't want to subsidize McDonald's or Burger King or any corporation that is not paying their employees a decent wage. And why should our taxpayers be having to carry the cost from Burger King and McDonald's? Just Burger King and McDonald's, by the way. Not that I'm angry at Burger King and McDonald's. We're the ones who did it, but just Burger King and McDonald's, you know how much they cost the people of the state of New York for their employees? $700 million a year. How absurd what we're doing. So you say to our conservative friends when they say, well, you shouldn't be in the marketplace. You say, that's right, we want to get out of the marketplace, let the corporations pay a decent wage so we don't have to put the food on the table of people who are getting shafted by the system. And the second initiative we want to get passed this year is something called paid family leave. Paid family leave, along with the disrespect that goes to the worker in this current economy, there's a lack of power that the employee has. The employee is treated more like a commodity. And if you call up your boss in many cases and say, you know, something came up at home, I need a couple of weeks off because I have a problem. A lot of employers will say, you need a couple of weeks? Take the couple of weeks. Take a couple more. Don't bother coming back, as a matter of fact. The worker doesn't have that same power and relationship with the employer that they used to have. So if something happens and you need to do something in your life, because there's more than work, there's something called life, right? And you have to balance the two. You shouldn't have to choose between going broke, losing your job, or doing the right thing at home. That should not be a choice. It can be a bad situation or it can be a good situation. Last year, I lost my father, and we knew we were losing him. He was at home. Surely God bless the home care workers. How you do what you do, I have no idea. But we had him at home, and we knew it was just a matter of time. But those weeks, those months were precious, you know. I talked to my father every day, 4 or 5 times. We were very, very close. So you'd say, well, you know, what else was there to say? You guys talk forever. And we can talk. We both could talk. But you know what? That's the time that you want to be there. If it's just to be in the room, just to hold a hand, just to dry a tear, just to smile, that was the time to be there. And I'll tell you the God's honest truth, I kick myself to this day for not spending enough time there. Because there was always something important, and work was always important, and this was always important. It was all baloney. What was important was to be there then. So it can be a bad situation, or it can be a mother who has a child and wants to stay home and bond with that child, a father who wants to stay home and bond with that child. We're one of 3 nations on the globe that doesn't have paid family leave. The other nations, Suriname and Papua New Guinea and the United States of America. Who would believe that? We want paid family leave, paid for by the employees who pay into a fund about 70 cents a week, and they can get up to $700 per week in benefits in the first year. The opposition is going to say, oh, it's very expensive for business. You know what it costs business? 0. Nada, scata, niente, nulla, whatever language you want, it costs them nothing. It's all paid by the employees. They say, well, they may have to hire someone in the meantime if the person takes off. Fine, but they're not paying the first person, so they wind up neutral. It has no effect economically on businesses, and it makes a world of difference in respect and livability for an employee. That we also have to pass this year. If we do $15 minimum wage and we do paid family leave, we will have done something. We will have changed people's lives, and that's what this is all about. Last point, we named the campaign for my father, Mario Cuomo, who was a big fan of 1199 and George Gresham. And this was the essence of my father. My father was a man of principle above all. And he maintained principles, and he didn't care how tough the fight. He didn't care how tough the opposition. He was going to fight the right fight, and he was going to fight the good fight, and this is the right fight. This is the fight of principle. This is fairness for all. This is opportunity for all. This is mobility for all. This is decency for all. This is New York State. We're not going to treat each other with anything less than total respect. We don't care if the big corporations are against us. We have the people with us. We're going to pass it in the state of New York. We're going to pass it this year. We're going to say to the rest of the nation, it doesn't have to be this way. You can have an economy that works for everyone, where everyone is stronger, and the greatest feast has the most people at the table. That's what we believe in New York, and we're going to make it real here, and it'll be a wave that goes from one end of this country to the other. Your help will make it possible. Thank you, and God bless you.